and welcome. I'm thinking today about maps, in particular, as you might have gathered, road maps. Yes, I want to talk to you about the Nova Open release. Let me say this first. Games Workshop, this is a map. This shows you where you're going. What we got yesterday, by the time you watch this video, was not so much a map as a general set of directions such as you might get if you were trying to find the local post office. As you might gather, despite being generally fairly enthusiastic about Warhammer, and we'll get to that in a minute, I was underwhelmed by the announcements that came out of the Nova Open, and I will cover that in a lot more detail at the Warhammer podcast next week. So, if I'm following this right, if anyone who has not yet caught up with the breaking news that was the Nova Open announcement, there will be no further Warhammer the Old World releases this year. After Warriors of Chaos, which goes up for pre-order this weekend, and more on that in a moment, after Warriors of Chaos, nothing else will be released for Warhammer the Old World until next year. And, somewhat confusingly, following the roadmap, it would seem that amongst the things that are going to be released this year is Dwarven Mountain Holds. Am I the only one who feels like this roadmap perhaps was drawn up before they had organised their release schedule? Nonetheless, it is nice at the very least to see that there will be 2 armies released at the very least next year. Those, of course, have been confirmed as Empire and High Elves in that order. Although if you were looking at the, and again I use the word map loosely in this manner, but if you were looking at the map that had been provided as part of the Nova Open, then you might think that it's High Elves then Empire, as the line that follows its way around the map looks very much like a U-turn, rather than, for example, a map that's showing you, where you're going. What this means is, let me say this. We've fixed it for you. This is what a map looks like. But what this means then is this. It would appear that once we've got Warriors of the Chaos out of the way, which, like I said, very rapidly rushing up on us after the release of Dwarven Mountain Holds, this weekend the pre-orders go up, there's then going to be several months where your wallet at the very least can relax and recuperate. And I think in many respects, this is a good thing. It means that we can stop and enjoy some of the stuff that's been released for Warhammer the Old World thus far, presuming it remains in stock, and also it means that we can save our money, certainly in my case, for the inevitable releases that are coming next year. What they did confirm, and thank you very much for this, Games, genuinely thank you, I am quite chuffed with what they have announced thus far for what is coming for Warhammer the Old World, is firstly Empire. We now know, certainly, that one of the key narrative threads that's woven into the Chaos Arcane Journal, flavor pamphlet, that is being put up on pre-order this weekend, is a whole narrative about the invasion of kind of the Westland and Nordland areas of the Empire, the areas that are currently under the control of Empress Marguerite. This whole kind of narrative is going to form a thread that will lead nicely from the Chaos book through into the Empire book, which I'm quite excited about for 2 reasons. Firstly, because I think it's really cool that we get to see this whole other area of kind of Warhammer lore that we've never really had explored before. And I really hope that this means that we might get to see some more Black Library novels. Because aside from the Lords of the Lance one, which, if you haven't read it, is excellent. And, go and get it. It's brilliant. It's as you would expect from Graham McNeill writing about the Warhammer the Old World fantasy era. It's brilliant! But anyway, what I would like to see is Games Workshop to produce some more novels set in the Old World. Maybe this is the opportunity. Whilst there's no kind of releases coming for the next 4 months, maybe this is the ideal opportunity to give us some stories set in kind of this war between Chaos and the Empire during the time of the 3 Emperors. I would love, never mind a book about that, I'd love a trilogy about that. Get a decent author writing that. Get, someone like Andy Clark, or, get Graham McNeill back, or Dan Abnett to return to the Warhammer world. Get Sandy Mitchell, because the stuff that he did as kind of the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay tie-in trilogy was just genius. Some of the best Warhammer Fantasy writing that I read from that period. But yeah, that being said, what we have also got coming, therefore, is hopefully the Marienburg Landship. Because why would you tie your narrative into the era of Marienburg and that kind of area of the Empire unless you were going to release the Marienburg Landship. And we have had confirmation that there'll be several kits coming for the Empire as part of the Nova Open release news. We've got news that there's going to be returning plastics, returning metal, and returning resin. What could that be, I wonder? Landship. But the thing that warms my cotton socks, if it weren't for the fact that it's too warm to wear socks in the UK right now, the thing that warms my heart, perhaps, shall I say, aside from the sweltering and humid weather that we're enduring at the moment, is they mentioned war wagons. Oh, I am perhaps a little overly excited about that, but as somebody at the moment who is avidly working his way through building a 5th edition Empire army, I love the fact that each release that Games Workshop has put out in the last couple of releases for Warhammer the Old World has brought me one step closer to just being able to use this army in the Old World rules. So I've now got rules for using ogres in my Old World Empire army, like they used to be able to. I've now got rules for using dwarves in my Warhammer Empire army, like they used to be able to. I will soon, it would seem, have not only the ability to have rules, but the return of the model to take a war wagon in my Empire army, like I used to. I'm getting at least 2, maybe 3. And I'll tell you a bit more about war wagons in a minute. I am literally a unit of halflings away from just having the best Empire army ever that they make for Warhammer. War wagons, for anyone who is perhaps uninitiated or wasn't alive when this edition of the book came out, the war wagon is an awesome invention of the Imperial Engineering College, insofar as it is, and this is important, it's a wagon, but they put some armour on it, and then stocked it with a bunch of overly enthusiastic engineering students with experimental weapons. You thought Skaven were the only ones who got to use crazy wonder weapons. No, no, no! It's the Empire with their highly original inventions, such as a gun that can shoot slightly further than other guns, or, and this is interesting, a spiky ball on a chain. And one of my all-time personal favourites, a man catcher, which the Skaven have been using for centuries, I mean, millennia, to be honest. But anyway, nonetheless, it's cool. Maybe we'll get the original model. Maybe we'll get a new model. That would be pretty cool. I'm not holding my breath, to be honest. I think that we're going to get the original model released, probably in plastic and metal. But that's still cool, because I want that. And I want to be able to use that to play the Idol of Gork campaign that was released during 5th edition, because I love classic 5th edition campaigns, and I'd love to be able to play it both in the 5th edition rules and in the Warhammer the Old World rules. And you'll get to watch it if I do. Anyway, the other thing that we got teased as part of the Nova Open release was the return of the High Elves, and in particular we have a first taste of what one of the armies of renown might be within their flavour pamphlet, namely a seafaring list with a particular seafaring character. Now, I mentioned quite some time ago that when I was talking about which characters of the Warhammer world would have been alive during the era that Warhammer the Old World is set, I said that the future Phoenix King, an all-round general adventurer hero, Finnebar the Seafarer, was alive and around during this time and should make a return to the tabletop of Warhammer, because I don't think he'd ever actually had a miniature before, and it would be awesome if he did. I know that he does have, certainly in Warhammer Total War, he has an appearance. So it would be very cool if they could kind of take inspiration from that, perhaps a new shiny model, which, I mean, we loved the stuff they came out with for Dwarves. It's a bit of a shame that Chaos aren't getting a new shiny model. I'm a little bit disappointed in that regard. Again, I'll touch on Chaos in just a moment. But the other thing that they've hinted at is a return of a classic Forge World kit. We've already seen a few of these coming back. Things like the Chaos Warpfire Dragon, the Giant Chaos Spawn, the Skin Wolves that are all coming for Chaos. The Merworm. Yes, apparently the Merworm is going to be making a return to the Warhammer battlefield as well. This is another classic piece from the kind of monstrous Arcanum era of Forge World releases, which also gave us things like the Troll Hag and the giant, supersized, colossal giant, Bonebreaker giant for Orcs and Goblins. I'm very excited for what all of this means next year, and I am actually quite pleased I'm going to have a little bit of time to just kind of rest my wallet, because it can feel sometimes like it's a little bit frantic, the pace at which Games Workshop have been releasing things, albeit there is a part of me that's still sad that my prediction that all of the different races that made up the initial part of Warhammer the Old World aren't going to be released this year. But let's talk briefly about the Chaos release, because that is creeping up on us at a dramatic rate. Before you know it, I'll be back here reviewing the Arcane Journal in my usual inimicable and scientific manner, involving my whiteboard and just some random numbers that I made up. What do we know now about Chaos? Well, at the time that we're making this, we are basically all but done in terms of reveals. There is one final Warhammer community article coming, which will tell us a bit more detail about the 2 regiments of renown that are in there, the Seawolves list and the kind of dedicated to chaos list. What we do know is there's 2 characters in here. Some of the books have had 3. The Dwarf book had 3. The Bretonnian book had 3. The Tomb King's book had 3. The Orc and Goblin book, meanwhile, only had 2. And it looks as though the Chaos book is only going to have 2. Those 2 characters are Galroch, the first dragon of Chaos, and I'm not sure if I pronounce this, Frydal or Ferdal? I think Ferdal, if I can roll your R. Ferdal. The Chainmaker. A Chaos kind of barbarian queen, kind of a Red Sonja written evil version of a character. Now, what we're going to be encouraged to use for a model for that, I'm not sure. Maybe something like the Dark Oath War Queen. That would be a cool model to throw in there. Certainly, there's a whole bunch of models in the Dark Oath range that would fit nicely for this. We don't yet know what her rules are. Maybe she'll be in Chaos Armor, in which case it might be a conversion job. We'll wait and see. I'm definitely going to be having a go at that because she seems to tie in nicely, from what we've been told, to the whole Seawolf Barbarian raiding type force. And I've already previously mentioned my Chaos force that I'm working on for Warhammer the Old World is heavily filled kind of Marauder Horsemen, Marauder Warriors, units of marauding barbarians. So definitely she needs to make an appearance in my Conan the Barbarian Marauder themed He-Man Chaos Warrior army. But the other stuff that we've had confirmed as part of this release is that Galroch, it is, as we expected, the original model that was released during 6th edition. It's coming back in metal, with much like they did with the Casket of Souls and the Screaming Skull Catapult, a few tweaks just to make it work better as a metal kit, which, again, I really appreciate Games Workshop taking the time and effort. They didn't have to do that. They could have just re-released the original metal kit and said, enjoy, kids, good luck. Instead, it would appear that they have tweaked it to make it go together better, make it easier to assemble. But they've also told us, tweaked the rules and given us an indication as to how many points he's going to cost. 400 points. I think this makes him, I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I think this makes him the most expensive special character released for the Old World thus far. And I say thus far because who knows what's to come once the High Elves and other armies come out. I mean, we might get, Prince on a dragon or something that absolutely blows it all away. But what they did say is they've tweaked the rules for Galroch to make him more balanced than he was back in his kind of 6th edition days, when there was a very much a risk each turn that he would just be not only completely useless to you, but an absolute threat to your own army. Now, it would seem, instead of becoming, briefly controlled by his nasty, goody-goody high elf dragon side, if he gives in to kind of the better side of his nature, it simply makes him less effective for a Chaos Force, rather than out making him a threat to your army, which, when you're spending 400 points, which, let's be honest, in a 2,000 point game, that's 20% of your entire force cost right there in one model. When you're spending that, I think you kind of hope that he's going to at least do what you tell him to, even if he doesn't necessarily do it as well as he might otherwise do it. I'm really then excited to see what else comes with the Chaos release this weekend. I will be back with more news about that, I'm sure, when we do the Warhammer podcast next week. And I will be back next week with more Warhammer content. So please come back then. I look forward to talking to you all about whatever else has been announced for the Chaos release by that point. Games Workshop, if you are watching this, again, I say this every time you do an Old World release, please, please, can I have a copy of the Arcane Journal in advance so I can review it for everybody to enjoy before it gets released? Or, so I can do the review ready for when it's released, rather than having to do it like a week later, because it would be nice to be able to give it to people on time. Okay, other than that, I am creeping up on 2,000 subscribers. So if you have not already subscribed, please, please, please do me a favour and click that subscribe button at the end of the video. If you are already a subscriber, please, please, please tell your friends. You must have other gaming friends. Tell them, hey, check out this guy, he's mad. Go and check out his videos. Give him a subscribe, he's nearly at 2,000. I have asked for suggestions as to what I should do when I hit 2,000 subscribers. One person online suggested that I should do a 2,000 point battle report, which sounds fun, but then I feel like I'm setting myself up for, disappointment down the road if I ever get to, like 8,000 or 10,000 subscribers. That's going to take forever to film. But hey, who knows? If you want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. If there's something else you'd like to see, like another Q&A video or something, let me know in the comments down below. Right, otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and as ever, I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.